Hey guys, Jay at Broader Performance. Alright, so a friend of mine asked me a question on these 4R70Ws. It seems there's a popular modification that people are doing on these where they're coming out of here, which is your main pressure port, and they're running a piece of tubing down, and this is a 4x4 adapter here, but so this doesn't really apply to this one. But on the normal slip yoke style, they're running the tubing into here to force feed oil to the bushing. Guys seem to think for some reason that this bushing lacks oil supply. And, you know, I told them I don't see an issue with that, and I'm aware of this modification. And I think, give me 1 second, I think I have this still. I took one off a unit one time. 1 second, let me see if I can find that real quick. Yeah, okay, so I still do have this goofy deal. So here's the normal extension housing, and you can see this fitting has been added, and then this piece of tubing was made, and it was teed into here originally. I've got a pressure gauge in here right now I'm testing, but so, you know, that's the deal there. And if you look in here, I don't know if you can see, but it's hard to see, but there's a little hole drilled into the bushing that will feed that slip yoke. And, you know, looking at this, it doesn't look all that great in there, but hey, it was force fed, so it must be good, right? So anyways, and I told him, no, this unit doesn't need that. And he says, well, a lot of people are saying that the bushing is spinning in there and, you know, it seizes up and spins. Well, I think I've said this in other videos that most of the time when you put a new bushing in and it seizes up on you, it's usually because it was too tight. Very, very common that you have to hone these bushings out. They're just too tight, and I know people think tighter is better sometimes, as long as it'll turn, but you need some clearance. So what I want to show you is, and I told him, I says, you know, next time I do a 4x4, I'll show you how much oil's getting back there. And so you can see here, I don't have the back piece to this. I have to run this on my dyno without it, but you can see this piece of cardboard here and it's soaked. This is to keep the oil from spraying all over my shop when I run it. And it didn't really work because there's oil all over the floor there and here, but it helps. But what I'm going to do, I'll sacrifice for the greater good. I'm already making a mess anyways. And it's the end of the week, end of a long week, and shop needs to be cleaned anyway. So I am going to take my little high-tech cardboard shield off of here, and I'm going to run this for you on the dyno for a minute. And you guys can see how much oil is getting back there, and that's with no modifications. So I want to, he kind of asked me, you know, would you please debunk this theory? I'm tired of seeing everybody on the internet saying you got to do it. So, okay, here we go. Let's show you what's going on when this is running. So give me a second. I'm going to take this cardboard off, and I'm going to try to set this camera up somewhere. I don't have the stand in this building with me, but I'll do the best I can here. So bear with me. Give me a minute, and I'll set this up for you. And I'll show you some oil spraying. It's probably going to hit the camera. Okay guys, here we go. I'm going to fire this up. See what happens. Yep, I think you get the point. So we're getting oil. So you guys that are going around telling everybody they got to do this goofy modification, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever run the transmission with the back off? Well, you just saw it. I didn't modify anything, and that's it. You know, there's so many things on the internet that people try to sell you, and I don't know. I'm cheap, stubborn, all those things. I don't automatically buy into these things, but this is why, because I test stuff. I don't just take somebody's word for it. So anyways, draw your own conclusion, but in all fairness, I'm running, that's at 200 pounds of pressure, which isn't an unusual amount of pressure for this unit, but you're not always running at 200 pounds of pressure. So you're going to get a little less oil back there at lower pressures, at cruising speeds and things, but this is not something to be concerned with on this unit. Now, I will say this. I think that mod maybe has some merit on something that, say for example, a C4 or a C6 that had a governor on it, and you go and remove the governor, and the governor, leaks and slings oil inside the housing, and when you remove the governor, you lose a lot of that oil supply. So on those kind of units, yeah, maybe that mod's got some value. I don't do it personally. I honestly don't really see problems even in those situations. I'm not saying it won't be after a certain amount of time, but typically on something with a manual, a trans-brake valve body, race, or hot street application or whatever, you're not trying to get 100,000 miles out of it anyway. So that bushing's probably going to be the last thing to fail on you. But if you're running a 4R70W, or you just freshly rebuild them and you put it together and you're spinning bushings back there or something, it's not because you lack oil. It's probably they're just too damn tight. And that's something you need to be aware of. And, maybe the slip yoke you're checking it with may not be the same as the customer slip yoke or something if it's a shop. And, some of these aftermarket slip yokes can be, a thousandth of an inch bigger on the OD than maybe one you have. They can vary some, so that's something you can run into maybe. But anyways, just fulfilling a request here. And I don't know, I hope you got a kick out of oil spraying all over my shop. So apologize for lack of content on this one, but I think it teaches a lesson. So if you're building one of these and everybody's telling you got to put that goofy tube on there and force feed it oil, don't bother. Not really going to hurt anything. I mean, I do see some things on the pressure gauge. You can actually notice, even with the small hole they had. I took that thing off. That's why I have it. That was a unit that came in. I ran the unit and I thought, geez, my pressure and oil flow is kind of low until I rev it up some. Then it's fine. But just that little hole was really causing a very noticeable pressure and coolant flow drop with that, and I didn't like it, so I just took it off. I said, man, we don't need this. And it just kind of made me feel like maybe I had a leak somewhere else, and it really turned out to be that. So I removed it. Pressure and flow looked normal after I did that, and I felt, personally felt better giving it to the customer that way. I'm not saying it would have necessarily caused a problem, but it's just not needed. And it's a waste of time if you're going to do it, or a waste of money if you're going to pay somebody to do it. So, just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. You see what I see. You draw your own conclusion. Thanks for watching.